Kathmandu, melting pot of both race and religion, a metropolis in the heart of the Kingdom of Nepal, a country of snow-covered mountains inhabited by the gods. In the center of the city is the ancient palace of Hanumandoka, part of which is restricted from the public. The large relief of Kala Bhairava, a frightening manifestation of the god Shiva in the guise of an avenger, looks down on those below. A defeated demon lies at the foot of the six-armed god. The devout religious faith of the people stems from their belief that their sacred country was the birthplace of Buddha. Kumari Chowk is the residence of the living goddess Kumari. For this role, a young girl is duly selected and is disallowed from leaving the palace until puberty. Her task is to affirm the power of the king. Age-old traditions are celebrated throughout the year, such as the Festival of the Children, that symbolises fertility and sexuality. The large hall of Kasthama Undapa was built during the 11th century, mostly from the wood of a single tree. It's a royal assembly hall. Close by is the highly gilded Matsyendranath Temple. This sacred place is dedicated to the Tibetan Jamali cult and is particularly striking due to its artistic synthetic decor on gilded copper plate that covers its external walls. Both day and night, large crowds of people jostle through the narrow streets and alleys of the old town. Kathmandu has grown so much during recent years that only the sacred Bagmati River now separates it from Patan. Patan, City of Beauty, Nepal's second largest city, has retained much of its original character due to its 300 monasteries and temples. This former centre of one of the earliest three kingdoms contains the Hindu Kumbeshwara Pagoda, one of the country's oldest buildings dedicated to the god Shiva. The first two stories of the temple were built in 1392. It was not until the 17th century that the upper three stories were added, a particularly unusual addition to the architecture. Each of the ruling dynasties built the various Buddhist and Hindu pagodas and altars according to their religious belief. Here, religion is all. The tower-like Mahabuddha Temple is adorned with several terracotta figures and ornaments and is different to conventional Nepalese architecture. In earlier times, the Kwa Bahal Monastery was the administrative centre of trade in Tibet. Its shining gilded copper plates soon gave it the name the Golden Temple. Bhaktapur is the third ancient regal city of the 30-kilometre-long Kathmandu Valley, that has always been a prosperous trading route between China, Tibet and India. Through the Golden Gate of Sundoka is the old royal palace complex. On the edge of Durbar Square is the Palace of 55 Windows, a masterpiece of traditional wood carving. In spite of numerous earthquakes and turbulent times, the City of the Faithful has managed to retain its historical appearance and is one of the most beautiful examples of its kind in the world. It's hardly surprising that Bertolucci's movie Little Buddha was filmed here. The elongated and slightly sloping square of Takapala Tole is dominated by the huge three-story Dattatreya Mandir Pagoda. In a nearby alley is a building that was constructed in typical Nerwa style and features the famous peacock window. A large variety of pottery is both created and sold in the square. On its 5-level high pedestal, Nyatapola Temple is the tallest temple in Nepal and adds an air of sublime tranquility to the medieval city. Located on a 1,400-meter high hill, Swayan Bunath is a Buddhist monastery complex and one of the most interesting sites in Nepal. Nepal's oldest stupa dates back to the 5th century and is entered from an easterly direction up a staircase that contains 365 steps. Many legends relate to the establishment of this sacred place that dates back to the earliest origins of Kathmandu Valley that was once a lake. Swayan Bunath has been repeatedly subjected to earthquakes, and in 1349 by Muslim attack, but it's always been rebuilt to an even higher degree of beauty. Innumerable small temples indicate the popularity of this place that is also visited by those of the Hindu faith. Side by side, numerous gods are worshipped here. The valley's inhabitants have always demonstrated their strong religious belief with outstanding buildings. Northeast of Kathmandu is the temple complex of Pashupatinath. For the followers of the Hindu religion, this is the most holy place in Nepal. On the banks of the holy Bagmati River, the faithful burn their dead, and further upstream they sacrifice flowers and undertake ritual bathing. The ashes of the deceased are scattered in the river and thus returned to the continuous cycle of nature. The sadhus, or holy men, have given up worldly life and have long beards and wild-looking hair. Hordes of pilgrims visit the many temple complexes that are dedicated to god Shiva, the master of the animal kingdom, and also patron saint of the Hindu realm. And each of the temples become extremely busy when sacrifices are scattered over the sacred flames. Bodhnath is the home of the monks that were driven out of Tibet by the Chinese. This small city is the center of the Buddhist faith, Little Tibet. In the center of the city is the country's largest sacred building, 40 meters high. Its dimensions are indeed impressive, but from an artistic point of view, this stupa is relatively plain. It is encircled by a wall of prayer mills. From dawn until dusk, both the old and young of Tibet offer prayers around the stupa. China claimed Tibet as its own. Consequently, the spiritual and worldly leader of the Tibetans, the Dalai Lama, was forced to leave Tibet, along with a following of many monks. The eyes of Buddha constantly watch over the faithful who practice their religion without constraint. Originally, this stupa was the tomb and sacred storeroom of the relics of the historical Buddha. But today, it's a symbolic holy building. Changu Narayana, the gem of Nepal, designated as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO and the oldest sanctuary in Kathmandu Valley. Situated 1,450 meters on a mountain north of Bhaktapur, this village is home to many skillful artists and woodcarvers. And a variety of artistic masks and dolls are also on sale to pilgrims as a souvenir of their visit here. Agriculture also has an important role to play in this region and gives the population a life that is free from poverty and hunger. The Hindu religion is also of major importance to this place. The village's temple complex crowns the summit of the mountain and is dedicated to the god Vishnu. The god Vishnu steps up to us as the figure of Narayana, as the first god of a new era. The sacred temple complex overlooks the entire Kathmandu Valley and can be seen from everywhere. An earthly residence of the gods. The small Nerwa town of Sanku is just as it was a century ago. It lies at the foot of a mountain range that was once traversed by ancient caravan routes. The prosperity of this former trading centre was at its height many years ago, and today it's a quiet, sleepy town. Hidden in a canyon and located next to a mountain creek, the Dakshinkali Temple protects the valley. Each year, this sanctuary is visited by more than 400,000 pilgrims. This place of worship is dedicated to one of the mightiest goddesses of this region, the Southern Kali. Dakshin means south, and Kali stands for the destructive image of Shiva's wife, Parvati. This is a place of constant hustle and bustle, but the temple of the goddess Kali is not popular with everyone. On Tuesdays and Saturdays, animals are brought here for slaughter. The head of each animal is severed by a special priest in front of an image of the goddess Kali. The animal's blood is sacrificed to the goddess. The dead animals are then cooked for the faithful and served at a public dinner in nearby meadows. Sometimes the rush for food is almost overwhelming. On a small hill, there is a temple dedicated to Kali's mother, for whom sacrifices are also made. The people here hope that their wishes come true, and at the same time that an unhappy soul will be freed from its incarnation as an animal. Due to its location, Kirtipur is one of the most charming Nerwa towns in Kathmandu Valley. At one time it was famous for its belligerent inhabitants, yet its medieval townscape has maintained its authenticity. The city is located on a hill that has two peaks, each one of which is crowned by a sanctuary, the Chilandeo Stupa and the Uma Maheshvara Temple. This 17th century building was badly damaged by an earthquake and is dedicated to Shiva and his wife Parvati. It was renovated in 1934. The strategically positioned fortified city was once surrounded by a wall. Repeatedly, its people successfully repelled enemy attack. But in the year of 1766, Prithvi Narayana Shah and his Gurkha troops succeeded in conquering the city and forced its inhabitants to surrender. These proud people were severely punished for their courageous resistance. The men of Kirtipur had their noses cut off. Thus the name City of the Noseless. The famous Chobar Canyon, through which the Bagmati River flows, can be crossed from a great height over a precarious chain bridge. Legend has it that Bodhisattva Manjushri cut this canyon with his sword to drain the lake that once filled Kathmandu Valley. Tanah Uti has also maintained much of its historical authenticity, and every 12 years many Hindus meet here to take a ritual bath to commemorate the god Indra. The village is situated at the junction of two rivers, where in earlier times vital trading routes met. Even today, a number of fascinating buildings and large temples in which thousands of people once made sacrifices demonstrate the former glory of this intriguing city. The centre of the city is dominated by the Indreshwara Temple, covered with ancient wood carvings and which was expertly restored by French craftsmen. At the eastern end of the town of Banipa is the Kandesvari Mandir, a tranquil temple complex on the edge of what is now a modern town. The temple is linked with the legendary victory of Parvati over the buffalo demon Kand. The high quality of the wooden carvings more than compensates for its lack of gilding and coloured motifs. Of particular interest is the large Bhairava fresco that is located on the western external wall of the main shrine. Each of the other temples dates back to the 19th century. Our final destination, Duly. This idyllic village is situated at an altitude of 1,650 meters above sea level, at the end of the valley on the road to Tibet. The wealth of former times is indicated by the village's dwellings and temples that are covered by a fascinating array of wood carvings. Everywhere there are tiny altars and images of gods that serve to protect the village and its inhabitants. It was only a few decades ago that Nepal opened its borders. Until then, the home of the divine was totally isolated due to the requirements of the ruling Gurkha dynasty. Compared with the liveliness of Kathmandu, Duly is like a ghost town. Here, life in the mountains is meditational. Everyday life is determined by the gods. The Kali Temple, outside the village, is visited frequently to satisfy the gods and to seek their blessings. Precious wood carvings adorn the pagoda, from which there are magnificent views across the valley to the breathtaking 8,000-metre-high Himalayan mountains. For the rigours of the journey, one is rewarded by glorious nature and an overwhelming world of mountain scenery. The customs of the people in the kingdom on the roof of the world may seem strange, but this land of jungle and eternal snow has developed according to its own rich traditions and beliefs. 200 years ago, an Englishman wrote, "Kathmandu Valley contains as many temples as dwellings, and as many gods as humans."